Fellow nerds, we are talking about Loki, season 2, episode 4, Heart of the TVA. And it was a scrumdiddlyicious little morsel of of Lokiness.
And we got more spaghetti.
Yeah, yeah, we did. Unexpected
What,
spaghetti.
what kind of pasta do you want? Reed Richards? Victor Timely? Guess it depends on the marinara we're using.
Do you like blue? Do you like yellow or red?
I will. I'll take the rainbow spaghetti.
Oh,
A
there you
dash
go.
of thyme.
Oh, right on.
Doug wins. Doug has already won the podcast tonight with that.
By the way, let's not jump right to the end this time, okay, guys?
We
We just did.
we just did.
We just did.
But there is a lot to talk about prior
Oh yeah.
to the end of this episode because so much happened. You know, it starts out, we see Miss Minutes and Ravonna at the Citadel at the end of time, confirming what we thought last week, that secret she had was definitely, hey, you were instrumental in He Who Remains winning the multiversal war. And then he wiped you out. And I hate to say
man.
it, but Protocol 42 just is not as cool as Order 66.
Oh no.
Just didn't
Not
have
at
the
all.
same ring.
No,
And-
but it was even worse than that because yeah, he wiped Ravonna's memory, but he also wiped all of the TVA's memory. Everybody there. Well, maybe except for Obi.
Yep.
And Miss Minutes.
Well,
She,
yeah.
She is the only sentient being that, other than him, knows what happened.
Didn't
You
she
wanna
carry it
play-
out?
Do you want to play a game of chess?
Oh God.
And by the way,
Would you like to play a game?
I don't know if this is going to have any meaning down the road, but his last words to Ravonna before her mind was wiped was the exact same thing he said to Sylvie before she killed him.
Hmm.
See
See you soon.
Hmm
I was like, okay, is that going to come back and mean anything later on? Are we going to see a Sylvie Ravonna team up to take out Victor Timely? Well, they don't have to anymore, but that's down the line.
And how many times has this happened?
Right.
You know,
Well, it definitely seems like things are not going the same way it always does this time. Because, you know, we had the whole scene with, you know, OB and Victor talking about, oh, you know, you did the TVA. I learned from you, but I learned from you.
Yeah.
And, oh, now we finally got the snake eating its own tail reference that they've been going for all season. So, Screen Crush, New Rock Stars, you can all stop thinking that Ouroboros is the Midgard serpent or any other crazy theories that you guys have had.
God, you know, and I thought back when we were doing like WandaVision, I thought some of our theories were too far out of left field. You watch any of these other channels, and boy, they you know, I guess at least they're having fun, because, oof, that's some crazy stuff.
see, there's a reason I stopped. I didn't stop, but I slowed down my predictions. And the reason I stopped reeling people in is because it's the writing that we assume thinks like we do.
Hmm.
And then I was getting a little nervous with this show. I'm still hoping it'll pan out to like have a twist in it. But everything seems straightforward so far. You know, except for maybe the way Loki's acting when he said that in the cafeteria when he said we are gods. I'm like, all right, there's Loki. He's still in there. But then everything else just seems to be straightforward, and I'm waiting for a twist. I'm hoping there's a twist.
And
But-
that line he gave, "We are gods," was perfect. The way he said
Yes.
it, I was like,
Yep.
yes. But you didn't think Victor Timely getting turned into spaghetti at the end of this episode was a twist? You saw that coming? You expected it?
I didn't see it coming, but it's still it didn't seem like a twist to me. Like a twist would him be like, all right, I'm out here and I am he who remains. I know, I remember everything. That would be a twist to me. But for him to die, we don't know if he's dead. But for him to become spaghetti, before we realize what he's really doing there. Does that F up everything that He Who Remains had planned?
Well, see, I'm curious about that, and I was actually going to ask you to, because if you go back and you think about He Who Remains, did he even what is death at the end of time? Because he was really chill about the whole situation.
Mhm.
You know, when Sylvie was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stab you, I'm gonna kill you, and just like, okay, do what you
Sure.
want. I don't. And like that's on one hand, he was like, yeah, another one will replace me. It's like, I guess if you were maybe inhabiting, if your consciousness was maybe inhabiting whoever that was, and you weren't truly going to die, I guess maybe you would act like that. But if you knew for a fact that you were going to die and just some other variant of you is going to take over, I feel like you wouldn't be that chill about it. So I think there's something more to it. I don't know. I don't know that death is final at the end of time or even in the TVA. I think things work different there.
You know, it certainly does. And the, did you guys catch the Back to the Future reference, by the way?
Remind me.
When OB was like, "Oh, here's my model. It's not to scale, and I
Oh,
only had time
yes.
for one
Yes,
coat of paint."
yes.
Yeah.
That was exactly what
That was
Professor
funny.
Brown
That's
said.
exactly what he said in number 2.
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
well, I guess number 1 too as well. But when he's talking about no, I didn't have time to finish the clock tower. It's Doc. It's
Or
okay.
paint it. You're like, who cares?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. But I just don't want it to turn out to be like a J.J. Abrams type of thing where you set up, because our minds are running crazy. I can tell you guys have theories and ideas off of what has happened. I hope they don't set up something and then never follow through with it. That's what I'm worried.
How many episodes do we have left?
We have 2 episodes left.
2? Oh, I like how you did the Loki horns too. 2 episodes left.
Well, and that, one of the other things I thought was kind of a twist. They're not major, they're not the Sixth Sense twist at the end where you're like, whoa, what? I didn't see that coming. But the fact that Victor Timely was basically a pretty nice guy. He
Yeah.
shared his hot chocolate with the agent. It was very subtle. Like, he's not what you expected him to be. Everyone expected as soon as he showed up, and the way they kind of portrayed him in that first episode where he was swindling everybody, like he was Kang, and hasn't developed, but he seems like a fairly decent guy. He wanted to help the TVA. He was excited to meet OB, and overall, now he could change over time because you need that character development. But it was nice seeing him, like, basically not be a total dick.
He seemed more like a god of mischief.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. That's really straightforward because I keep thinking, all right, this is Victor Timely. This is a version of Kane. He's got something going on in the back of his mind. He's not going to stay nice, especially if he's he who turns out to be he who remains. And like when he put his head into that machine and it said, "Welcome, he who remains." I also thought at that moment it might click for him and he'd be like, "I am he who remains." You know what I mean? And then, and it kind of threw me actually a little bit when Miss Minutes was rebooted and she said, "You'll never be him." Wouldn't she know if that was him?
I have a theory about that.
Ooh, all right.
I don't think we heard her entire statement. Because she was saying, she said,
like
oh my God, where?
She said, "I've got something to tell you."
Yeah. But,
No, she said, no.
What did Miss Minutes need to tell him? I think she was going to say, "Don't go out and fix the loom, or you'll never be him." So I think there was a chunk, like she knew what could happen, and if he would go out and do it, he was going to get ribbonized, spaghettified, and I think we're going to find out because I think that because when she was like, "I got to tell you something," she did not sound like she was about to drop, "You'll never be him," and I think it was not her being like, "You're never going to be him. You can't live up to that." I think it was concerned for him at that point, thinking he was He Who Remains. And if she didn't tell him to not go out and try to put the, thing in the temporal loom, that he would live and would turn into He Who Remains. And I think that point is what's going to blow the whole multiverse open, is that he wasn't supposed to go out. And Miss Minutes, if she wasn't rebooted, would have told him not to.
I'm going to lightly tap the brakes. Just ever so slightly. We're coming down to a slow, or I'm gonna maybe yield for traffic. I think and I know I do this too often sometimes, but I think it's more simple than that. I would like to think that maybe she was trying to warn him. That would be nice for her character but I don't. I think she's a devious, sinister artificial intelligence who gets off on the demise of others and the crushing of bones and organs. And I think that she would very much want her last words to be some sort of an insult before she's rebooted. It's not fun. It's not fun, but I think that's all they were doing with her.
Well, I also had a question about her
little meanie pants there now.
About her rebooting. When she is rebooted, does she lose all of her memory? Is this the first time she's been rebooted since?
Well, it's the first time we've seen her be rebooted. We don't know what that means in the world of Loki. Normally, when you reboot a computer, everybody who's watching this probably knows it just means you're simply restarting it, right? So you pick up where you left off. If you had any programs open, you just reopen them. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what it means for Miss Minutes. Is she just going to, take a moment, boot back up, and have to, start her protocols again? Or does it mean that she's being, is this like a factory reset for her? Is she going to go back to wanting to play a game of chess?
That's my question. Yep, that's exactly my question.
So, yeah, that is a good question, Dave. What does reboot actually mean in the world of Loki?
One of the things I laughed about, there was a lot of little statements under Victor's breath that he said that I didn't hear the first time watching it. I noticed the second time. And one of them was when she was being rebooted and she was like going, and Victor goes, mocking is just is not necessary.
Oh, yeah. He has a bit of a stutter.
When he put his head into the loom, I didn't notice this the first time. They're like, it says, "Welcome, He Who Remains," and it's opening up, and they're all like talking. He goes, "Can I take my head out of this now?" I was like, "Oh, that's pretty funny."
Well, he wouldn't know what that is, That's
no, I know.
All...
That's what I thought was great about.
Yeah, that's nice that he would ask. Like, can I take this out now? I don't know what's happening. Nobody's explaining. I am surprised that he showed that momentary, like he's shown a lot of bravery. And I don't know if it's because, I don't know if Obi pumped him up and he was just like, hey, I can't let down my biggest fan. Also, my mentor figure. I got to look, tough and strong or something.
I think it a lot had to do with Kang thinking he was the best of the best. He was the only one who could do it right. He didn't want any partnerships as He Who Remains and all that. I think it was just the
ego thing,
the Kang ego beginning.
And for everybody else, it was like, whoo.
Right.
Because I ain't going out there.
I like how Mobius was just basically assuming that it was going to be a Loki. Okay. All right, so when you head out there, excuse me, why are we assuming that I'll be going out there? Well, because it's your turn.
The figure looks like you.
Figure. It's not to scale.
He's got a helmet on.
But you know what, too? Right after the scale scene, too, or the model scene when they're walking, Mobius wants to get some pie. Sylvia just rips into him. And she's like, "You found out you're a variant. Have you even looked yet?" He was like,
"No, that's too scary."
Yeah, he doesn't want to know what's out there. He's comfortable with what he knows in the TVA. And man, I don't know if that's going to be a wake-up call for Mobius. I don't know, obviously, what happened at the end of the episode. Who knows if the TVA is even going to be around, at the start of next episode, but that might be a wake-up call to Mobius and get him a little less into the TVA and maybe helping, in other avenues, because TVA ain't looking so hot right now. This is...
I'll chuckle if he does eventually go and like find himself, and then he finds out that the non-variant version of himself is like some master thief or a con man or something. And
It'd be funny is if he found the variant and it was his brother, who kind of looks like him anyway.
Luke
and,
Wilson.
Yeah, Luke Wilson, and he's on the jet ski.
Yeah, and he's on a jet ski.
Hi,
bro! I thought you were in prison.
Hey, nice it's here.
Yay! Welcome,
Awesome.
Nice Sith. How's it going, sir? Don't know if you've seen this episode of Loki yet, but
I was just
one from last week.
Yara, and she said her friend's in town, so she wasn't going to be around. But nice it is.
Awesome. Very cool.
Nice.
But what was I saying about Mobius?
Talking about variant. Yeah.
No, what do you think of that theory? That'd be great, right? It's not an actual theory, guys. I just thought it would be funny.
Well, he wants a jet ski.
It'll probably be something like he is selling jet skis, or or something along those lines. But there's definitely a jet ski.
Murdered his neighbor, stole his jet ski.
Didn't give it back. But do we need to talk about right after Hunter B-15 kind of went and talked to Docs, kind of got him on board, and it was like, okay, hey, listen, both of we may not agree, but hey, we both want the TVA to survive and do things, and then she leaves, and then Ravonna and Miss Minutes show up. I do believe we have found the real villain of the series.
You think?
What, Miss Minutes?
Clearly.
That scene played so much better without seeing it, with you just seeing her face and the smile getting bigger and brighter as you hear like bones crunching and stuff in the background. I was like listening to it really closely today. You just hear like bones crunching and body squishing, and she's just way too happy for all that. I was that scene played so much better without showing all the gore and stuff. It freaked me out.
It was creepier and like freakier just showing Miss Minutes' face.
Is Miss Minutes a Kang variant?
No,
she could be, but all that evil, loving to see people crushed.
Is she based off the brain patterns of Ravonna Renslayer?
That she is.
Yeah, she very well could be. I mean, they were both in love with him.
Yeah,
and the pruning of her Ravonna at the end of the show. Where did she go? She's not done.
I mean, I assume they go where everybody else goes and they get pruned over to, hang out with the Loki crew.
Loki land?
Yeah.
I wonder
with the Thanos chopper and.
I wonder if she'll bring back some of the Loki variants. Maybe Kid Loki, something like that, to kind of help her, not knowing, and then maybe, because I'm sure there's some Lokis I don't go against, Sylvie and Loki.
I assume she still had to have her temp pad on her, right?
We didn't see her not have it, so I would assume that she 100% has it.
So, at worst, it slows her down for a little bit until she, until Miss Minutes gets rebooted, and then they're able to temp pad back into the TVA. Or, well, maybe not. I don't know. They'll go somewhere, perhaps, or just hang out at the end of time.
Does the loom exploding change all of that?
Yes, I don't know. I don't know now.
You would think it has to change some things, but how much will it change? I mean, is the TVA, for all we know is that all of the timelines are now kind of out of control. Yeah, doesn't mean that the TVA is necessarily destroyed, but there's just things going everywhere. And one of the things, when we talked earlier about, Victor Timely and all of the spaghetti noodles flying everywhere. I took that as all of those lines are variants of himself that are going out into the time stream. And that is what is basically creating all of the variants of Kang that we will soon see. That is the point where all heck is going to break loose in the multiverse. And, we will probably see, if not one or two, a few variants of Kang to finish out this season.
So that is what needed to happen in order to create all those Kang variants. What happened there? Now there's the twist I needed. Thank you, Keith, for saying that. Because if it's just like him walking outside and he turns into spaghetti and then his character's over with, well, then that doesn't make sense. But what you just said by that creating all the Kang variants, that's an awesome thought. And I hope they were smart enough to think of that.
See, I also don't think he's dead, but I have a slightly different theory.
Okay.
So I do like that. First off, I hadn't considered that, Keith. That is an excellent theory. But my assumption is that none of them are really dead. I think they're all getting transferred to like the closest approximate timeline that they might have belonged to or something like that. Just kind of like getting zapped somewhere where like their temporal aura kind of meshes with.
Kind of like Rick and Morty when
Yes.
they were all zapped back to their original timeline.
Yes, something like that. And the reason why I do not think he's dead. Do you remember his conversation with Obi earlier in the episode? What Obi said to him?
To Victor?
Yeah, to Victor.
Huh?
He said, I learned everything that I know from this 19th century guy named Victor Timely.
Yep.
Meaning to say he did. He learned it in the past. Victor just now showed up to the TVA, so obviously he cannot possibly be dead, or Obi wouldn't have said that.
Well,
because
that
he still
Victor
needs to
could
come
be dead.
back, go back to the past, and talk to Obi and teach him stuff.
But it could be a variant who taught him all of that.
So another Victor Timely is what you're saying.
Possibly. It just
That
I
is
like your
a
theory. Don't get
possible
me wrong.
theory as well. Yeah.
They laid the
The
groundwork.
one that actually turns into He Who Remains.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
he would have
no,
been in the past, wouldn't he
I
have
mean,
recognized Victor Timely?
What's that?
If he had worked with him in the past, wouldn't he have recognized Victor Timely when he showed up?
No, because he also didn't recognize Loki right away,
That's true.
and he had talked to Loki in the past.
You're right.
He did recognize Mobius.
Right.
Yeah, Mobius was like the only person that he seemed to recognize.
But this would just mean that
But-
Victor goes to the past now after their meeting, and so Obi's memory will catch up to the things that happen if it does happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my other theory too, I was thinking about, Ravonna Renslayer probably is not gone for good. But
Oh,
will
no,
it
I don't
will
think
it be the same one that was pruned, or will we see a variant of her show up?
We could see a
Some method.
variant, but I think any kind of Ravonna is too important to this story. She's too uniquely tied to Kang, and especially I really like what they've done with her in the Loki show versus what they did with her in the comics. In the comics, I think she was like an Egyptian princess or whatever, and she was sometimes a lover of Kang, sometimes his enemy. She'd fight him and everything. It was like it would vary from whatever they needed, the role for her to fill. But this, I like the fact that she was a general. She was one of his generals, like the leader of his armies, who helped secure the timeline for him, helped him win the battle of the timelines and everything. And had he not erased her memory, she probably would have either, taken over herself, overthrown him, or, it wouldn't have necessarily been, I don't think she would have been so quick to share power. She seemed very power hungry, especially with the speech that she gave to
Docs.
Docs and all
Docs
of them.
and
Yeah.
crew?
Docs and crew, yeah. I was trying to think of like what to call them. The timekeeper,
the
formerly
Flat
known as
Earthers.
Docs, the Pancake Squad,
The flat ones.
the flatliners.
You know, and she even said, like, when they were in the past and after she saw, she was like, so I've been running the TVA and doing all this myself while he sits at the end of time. And Miss Minutes was like, not exactly. You know, so that she was a little jealous, like, don't give yourself too much credit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
honey. Oh, you know, Miss Minutes handled some of this too, but she definitely was a huge part. And she even said, "I've been gone for 2 days, and the TVA is completely
And look,
falling
the whole
apart."
thing's falling apart. Yeah. Again, it's as if it hadn't been for her, everything is falling apart because she hasn't been there, and she's got an ego too. She's got just as big of an ego as Kang, if not maybe more.
Yep.
So yeah, whether we see the Ravonna that we've been seeing or whether we see another variant, I don't know that we're going to see another variant, at least not in this season. I think it'd be too late into the game to do that, to introduce us to a whole other Ravonna with only 2 episodes left. But it's very possible that it'll happen, in more seasons if we get any more.
I just think with
But
what
I
happened
don't
at
think
the
she's
end,
gone.
that's opening them up every timeline possibility, and they may be plucking people from wherever, and it may be a Ravonna, but not that, because we already understand the character a little bit, so it's easy to introduce
Hmm.
a variant than a whole new character at the end. But
Right.
I also wanted to talk about. I loved the way that this issue brought the pruning of Loki from episode 1 full circle. They did
Hmm.
as soon as I saw him pick up the pruning stick, I was like, okay, here we go. And they didn't hide it. They weren't trying to be super clever about it. We saw Loki with the little
That's true.
stopwatch, like knowing, and I thought it played out well because it's like, okay, we're about to get it. What's going on, and you know, I loved that he said right after he did it, and Sylvie's standing there like, he's like, this all makes sense. I promise. Like there's shenanigans going on, you know. I swear it'll make sense. That was kind of like a nod to, okay, we're being a little silly, here with future and
Mm.
past Lokis and all that stuff. But I was very happy for one thing. I thought the episode was going to end right when he was about to answer that phone. And I was going to go, no, but they ended on a different cliffhanger. So that was kind of
Hmm.
nice.
I didn't think that was a big deal. I mean, it seemed like, all right, so it's all going to make sense. It wasn't a really big thing. I mean, who cares who pruned him? Unless I'm missing something. Am I missing something? Because he just showed up and pruned himself, and we all had that theory weeks ago that, was that Loki that did it to himself? Yeah, and it turns out it was. All right, so it all makes sense, but there's no.
Yeah.
He
But
just.
that was
This
to
is this
Sylvie,
is
who
a
wasn't on our podcast, who, came out of an elevator and Loki was pruning himself. And so it was like, it's all part of the story. Don't worry.
again, go back to WandaVision. This is such a normal MCU style, like oh my gosh, you're never gonna guess. It's
Right,
Agatha, isn't it? That's Agatha. What? How did you know that that's Agatha Harkness? It-
because
Come
it's
on, man. She looks
obvious.
just like she does in that. Oh, I can't believe
Yeah,
you figured out my really tough to figure out hidden Easter egg. You're never gonna guess who prunes Loki. Loki doesn't he? No.
it's exactly it, Doug. That's why I didn't look at that when it happened and say, "Oh my God," because we
I
all
mean,
knew already.
yeah, it tied it up, but yeah, I think everybody knew that that's how it was gonna turn out. But they had to show it,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they made such a big deal out of it in episode 1
It
that
was
he
just
has
nice
to
the
be
way it
pruned
happened.
in
Like he
order
got the
to.
pruning stick because,
Yeah, yeah.
X5 pruned the guard on Victor Timely and he dropped the stick. Loki just happened to pick it up. It just worked out nice how it all came together. There wasn't any plot holes or anything, weird going on like that.
So is time predetermined?
No.
Not if you ask the
Do
Hulk.
we do we actually have choices?
Yes.
No.
They don't make any difference, but you
Eventually
have choices.
it's going to work out the way it should. So
And I think, by the way, Mobius has the best lines all the time. And I love the one when they were walking back into the loom area and you hear this loud, like, screeching noise, like something's about to fall off or break, and he goes, "That's a sound you want to hear from farther away."
Yeah. Owen Wilson's doing a great job with that role. He's very, very comedic. He has very great comedic timing.
My favorite part was when they opened the shutters and he was just like, "Wow."
Wow. The old Owen Wilson, wow.
That was a good wow, Dave.
Oh, thanks. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And honestly, the only other thing that happened that, outside of the end, which we can talk a little bit more about, when they were on the phone after they answered that phone call. And he's like, "Well, I could restart Miss Minutes, but it'll turn off the safety protocols, like against people using magic
Yes.
inside a thing." And they're like, "Turn it off."
That was hilarious. They're like, "Oh my God, you mean we can use magic again? It's like our bread and butter. Yes, please."
And the only thing I think too about the whole thing when they were talking about this is going to turn off the safety protocols with Miss Minutes, with her being kind of rebooting when Victor went out, could that be why the safety protocols that she was enforcing could have saved him to go out and do it? And that's what happened on the original Sacred Timeline. He goes out there, basically saves the TVA, eventually becomes He Who Remains. And this is where it's going to change from the Sacred Timeline. He never got out there, just like Loki when he had to prune himself to be pulled back in so he'd stop time slipping. Him being spaghettified is putting Kangs everywhere in every time stream. And it's eventually going to, come back to haunt him probably sooner rather than later. So I really do think, even though Miss Minutes was kind of saying, we can do it without him, we don't need him and all this stuff, I think she still had feelings for him to a certain extent and wanted to do it with him, even though she was kind of being like, we can do it ourselves, we don't need him. I think she realized she wanted to do it with him. She could have done it without him, but it wouldn't have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was just jilted when she said that.
She just wanted a human body.
Maybe she'll get it.
Or she could be a mannequin, like in the movie Mannequin.
Oh, God, such a creepy movie.
That was a terrible, terrible movie.
There was a Mannequin too.
There was?
Yes.
That's a shame.
Was it straight to cable or something?
I think it was Christy Swanson was in that. She was the mannequin. And that guy from those old, you remember those old movies with the Brat Pack? What's his name? Andrew something?
McCarthy?
Andrew McCarthy. Yeah. That was part 2. And yes, I saw it, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
So on a scale of 1 to Morbius, how was it?
Oh, that is a horrible scale.
She's 0.5. I give it a solid 0.5.
God damn. Well, I have one more theory addendum, theory addition. I'm going to add on to a running theory that we've already been playing with.
An amendment, if you will.
Yes, thank you. An amendment, a theory to the amendment.
Theory, amendment.
So this is going back to the theory that we were all kind of tossing around in previous episodes, where we're talking about the idea that perhaps Loki will end up as the new He Who Remains. He'll end up being in charge of the TVA at the end of the time. He'll take on his full villainous role and be the new He Who Remains to do whatever he needs to do to eliminate Kangs. Well, I've got a slight amendment to that. So while I still think that he is in fact going to be the new He Who Remains, where he's going to guard the end of time and watch out for Kangs. I think he's going to find a happy medium because there's no way after watching the way the hunt what's her name
B-15.
Hunter B-15, the way that she was acting, and a lot of them actually, it seems like they want to do things in a different direction, and I don't think they would follow Loki in going back to Purge Town, USA. But here's what I think he's going to do for like a nice in between. I think he's going to allow variant timelines to continue existing, but the TVA are going to basically work like Men in Black agents. They're going to go and hop around from timeline to timeline, not being seen. They're not going to be like a military force. They're going to be more like secret agents. And they're going to find and they're going to seek out any Kang who gets a little too conquery, starts showing signs of being just a bit too and they're just going to prune him, and then they're going to get out of there, leave the timeline as it is. All the other variants are fine. It's the Kangs they're after. Nobody else is really a bother.
I could definitely see that. I also think he may just wipe all their memories. Decide, you know
You think
what?
he would do that too?
Yeah, I think Loki is a gray enough character. If he thinks wiping all these people's memories, the ends are going to justify the means by them doing what the TVA does best and wiping out timelines to keep the threat of Kang away, he would do it easily. But I do like your theory too, where we could.
I mean, yeah, I could see him in like because we've theorized quite a bit that he's going to finally the way that he's been called a villain, where we theorized that he's going to accept, yeah, you've called me a villain, I am a villain, and I'm going to act like a villain. So you very well could still. Who knows? But he could.
A lot of these, all the Kangs that we've seen, none of them. I mean, not even Kang the Conqueror in Quantumania. Yeah, not even him. They aren't aggressive to begin with. They're will work with you. They start off as good people, right?
It seems that way.
Victor Timely was very patient, very social. I guess the word I was looking for. He Who Remains wasn't even upset when they showed up. He was just like, "Let me show you around,"
We're gonna kill you. All right, that's cool.
Oh, please do.
Yes, there's got to be something that sets him up in each life, because he starts off as a nice guy.
All right, I got it. I'm gonna take this book off your shelf and drop it on the floor.
That could be the trigger.
I've read that one. Okay, all right. I'm gonna delete the save file in your game. You monster!
That's it. I'm conquering.
I'm conquering everything.
You even go back. Go ahead.
Who are you saying go ahead to?
You.
Oh, I was going to say, if somebody erases that save game, that's all the justification any king needs to become a timeline conquering menace.
To just genocide entire timelines.
Considering how many times he actually had to fall.
Oh.
Sorry, Keith.
No worries.
Kang has fallen off cliffs more times than Keith has.
We'd have
He
to
got
count.
almost to the end, and you lost the save point. Oh, that's it. Snapping.
He still hasn't found the poncho yet either. It's okay.
One of these days, we will get that poncho.
Well, we talked as long as this episode was on our. Do we have any? Are we giving ratings weekly on this?
We have been, so
Like
we
we
might
did.
as well continue.
Yeah. All right. I'll go first.
Okay.
For all the reasons I listed earlier, expecting a twist. Maybe that's on my that's my problem to expect the twist, but it's also me expecting a little bit more from the show. So I think it's still a good show. I'm still really enjoying it. So I think I'm going to give this episode a 7. You
Yeah,
know, for me
this
that's pretty good.
for you that's definitely good. I enjoyed a lot of things about this episode. The little Victor Timely, little under his breath sayings that he had. Mobius was great in this. Loki was great. I like where this is all coming together. I think the score was fantastic, building up,
Oh yeah.
when they're walking around and how it just added tension to every scene and, built things up. I like they didn't go too goofy with the reveal that it was Loki that, pruned himself because he had to. He was the one who knew it. I thought it all played out really well. I really enjoyed this episode. Makes me want to see, next week's better. I'm definitely going to go a solid 8. I think it did what it needed to do. It was entertaining. Sometimes when we have to watch these episodes a second time to kind of get a little more out of them, it's tough. But man, I could watch this episode again right after this, and I'd still probably rather enjoy it. They're doing an excellent job with telling this story in a TV show type manner. They've really kind of nailed it.
I loved so much about this episode. I thought it was fantastic. Um, I like I stated before, I'm kind of used to. I've come to expect certain things about MCU storytelling. I kind of get what they're going to dish out, and so while I'm not overly surprised, I'm not always looking to be surprised. I'm looking to be entertained, especially with this type of series. So I will say that I was thoroughly entertained. I love Victor Timely. I love his little quirks. I love how amazed he was about the idea of hot chocolate, and I love that that was like his biggest focus. Like everything is falling apart, and he's like, "You have a machine that makes hot chocolate? I must see this machine." And he's so excited about it. When he meets OB, he's like, "Oh, Ouroboros, will you sign my book?" And everything is just so fascinating to him, and
Mhm.
and the character quirks that he had, along with just the deviousness, the evil that poured out of Miss Minutes, was fantastic. It was so good because I was sitting there just like, oh my God, what is wrong with her? That they just like kept getting closer and closer to her face as her eyes are getting wider and her smile is getting bigger, and it's just like, this is so messed up. And then seeing Hunter B-15 like open the door later to, and again, they didn't show any gore, they didn't show any mess, they just show like the look of horror on her face. And I'm like, I feel you. That was me too. 5 minutes ago when I saw it happen.
That's some
And so
dark stuff.
it
Yeah.
was dark stuff. And then the way everything just cut off at the end, they haven't done that in this series yet. So it threw me for a minute. Everything just like went to black, and I was like, that that's it? That's what oh, okay. I'm like, I thought we were going to like have some sort of resolution to our spaghetti dinner, but apparently we're not yet. I was
It's the
like, all right,
it's the timeline Sopranos.
Well, and if you
basically.
remember last year, we got a post-credit scene after the fourth because Loki got pruned, and then we saw him, in the land where Aelith rules. And I thought for sure, I was like watching the entire credits, like, okay, are we gonna get a hint of something? Nope, nothing.
Yeah.
No. So I was pretty thrilled about pretty much everything in this episode. I thought that Dax and crew, I thought that they were going to, you know, turn a new leaf, help out the TVA. uh well, they I guess they helped wax the floor.
I think they were fully going to go with B-15 until Ravonna came in there.
I
You're
think so
right.
too.
I think if Ravonna and Miss Minutes would have came in before B-15 came in, they probably would have joined with him. But after talking to B-15, I think they were definitely going to help.
I think so too. But yeah, so I think I need to give this episode, and this is different. But I also need to give it an 8. That's a little unusual. I don't usually give the same score that one of my fellow nerds gives, but that's how strongly I felt about this particular episode, because this definitely had me on the edge of my seat a couple of times.
Likewise.
So I enjoyed it.
And I don't know, I can't remember the director's name for this episode, but they have been hired to direct Daredevil.
Oh, yeah?
Again.
The whole thing or episodes?
They said the whole thing.
Ooh.
Born Again again?
Born Again, yes. Which is, the same two gentlemen are directing the last 2 episodes of Loki. So I guess we'll know a little bit more about. It was funny because one of the scoopers online was talking that the next episode is one of the best episodes of Loki, which I think there's been quite a few good episodes. I do too. But she said it's a very character-driven episode.
Okay.
So, once again, it's a scooper, so we got to take it with a grain of salt. But it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially with the 2 guys being hired to direct what's probably Marvel Studios wanting to be one of their biggest projects ever in a Daredevil thing. So they must have a lot of confidence in these 2 gentlemen.
It's funny that you called it Daredevil Born Again. It sounds like there's an echo.
That was a good one, Dave.
Wait, no one bought a dad joke. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. After Doug's time joke earlier, you landed the echo one, so we're good.
That was good.
We're rolling.
I think that beats mine.
We got to tease them with these dad jokes so they'll purchase more.
Right.
Hey fellow nerds, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of this stuff, make sure that you check out our Twitch stream. We try to do these live Sunday or Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep an eye on our social media to find out when you can join in live and chat with us during these live streams. Also, as usual, don't forget to check out our other social media. Add us at Twitter, comment down below, and we'll see you next time right here on Not Your Status Quo.